Hello and welcome to Invisible Walls. I'm back from the brink of severe illness. Thank you guys for covering last week. Here with Patrick Morales,
Hello.
Justin Spear,
Yo.
and Marcus Spear.
Hello.
And I think we're gonna start off today with, it's been kind of this drought of games. Some stuff coming out next week, I guess, but we got Injustice this week, which is kind of an interesting game. I'm just thinking back to Mortal Kombat vs. DC, which was quasi-decent. I know you liked it. You played a bunch of it, Marcus.
I really liked it.
And you're a DC fan as well.
I'm a comic book fan, period, but I did like what they did. I mean, I would love to have seen that as an M-rated game.
And then Mortal Kombat 9 came out, and the best Mortal Kombat in over a decade, easily. And now it's,
Forever. Yeah,
actually.
Probably.
Is it better than
all
2?
time. Yeah, 2 is
Okay.
so overrated.
Okay. Yeah, we could go into that conversation as well. But, and now we have Injustice, which is, it's just DC. They kind of use that, you probably know better than me, the alt world thing where,
Well,
there's another Joker, there's another everyone.
It's funny, they actually use this alternate dimensions thing where they went, after going through, in the comic books, a huge reboot where they killed off every parallel dimension. A couple of years back. It was Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Okay.
And they destroyed every other, you were just left with Earth.
Okay.
And all the other versions all went bye-bye, and now they're back in this comic book form. And I know you guys will dissect the actual technicalities of the combat. I gotta say, story's really good from a comic book perspective. I mean, it does, and I'm not giving away anything major. Superman in an alternate dimension becomes everything that's opposite to the Superman we know. He basically becomes a tyrant, and
he doesn't kick puppies or anything.
He wears his underwear on the inside.
But he's got a good
he
grip on the world.
Well, yeah, he turns into a total arsehole, and he basically corrals everybody, every superhero, every supervillain in line, almost everyone in line with him to be this ultimate militia.
There was a Justice League animated movie. Yeah. And Joker was Jester and he was a good guy. Is it that same world, or is it? Or is it kind of just cherry picking some ideas?
From what I've heard, it's more of their own take on it, right?
It's a different world because the Joker in that dimension, who sets up the story, he dies pretty quickly.
Okay.
So you get Joker from the regular dimension coming over, and all sorts of hilarity.
Is this as long as
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat? I mean, these
I
were
think it's a little shorter, but it's still
for a
feels
fighting
like
game.
It's longer than like a 2-hour movie. It'll take you like 3-4 hours, but I think it's got a pretty good, It's interesting.
It's a comic book,
I'm not
right?
super into DC Comics, but the story goes along and things happen. It's not a ton of filler, so I think it's about right.
You could take all the cutscenes, stitch them together, and have a pretty good Justice League movie or a DC
That's
Universe
cool.
movie.
I know I've gone on record before saying I'm not a big DC fan like everyone else. I'll admit I think Batman's a pretty cool guy, but I love the Justice League or the what do they call it? The extended, the Paul Dini, the animated universe. I've really enjoyed. There's Justice League Unlimited and Justice League were really good.
The Justice League movie Final Frontier, did you watch that? It came out about 2 years ago.
Yeah, but that was outside of that, wasn't it?
That was almost like a precursor. That was like the Silver Age version. That also was excellent. But yeah, I mean, that's what DC does way better than Marvel, in my opinion. They do execute on the animated side really well. And this feels, I mean, you can feel Paul Dini's paws all over this. You can feel,
did he work on it?
They've got it's stylistic, and it's almost like there was that template. And then the voice acting, they have Bruce Timm back as Batman.
Kevin Conroy.
Kevin Conroy's Batman.
Yeah.
Who did Joker?
Definitely not Mark Hamill.
that is the
Not
sorry.
Mark
That is the
Hamill.
one. That's the one fly in the ointment that you can't be as good as Mark Hamill. And it would be nice to have had him in there. But like I said, story. I really enjoyed it. I really did.
Well, I mean, I think that is like a kind of a side comment, but you do want to kind of appease your fan base, and this has a split fan base, right? There's like DC fans, and then there's like the Mortal Kombat fighting game fans as well. So it's good that they hit that box. I know we talked about this a little bit, that there may have been a bit of feature creep going on with they threw a lot of ideas in, but they may not have been completely baked.
I think they've gotten better at making fighting games as they've gone. I mean, comparing this to the MK versus DC universe, I think it's a pretty big difference. They learned a lot of stuff in developing the Mortal Kombat in 2011. They really said, okay, how do we make pretty serious fighting game? We're going to try to do it. We're going to earnestly, try to do this, not coast by on the of course it still had the fatalities and all the crazy Mortal Kombat stuff, but they didn't coast by on that. They're like, okay, let's look at other games, Street Fighter 4 kind of, relaunched the fighting game genre for a while. You know,
At least 2D wise, yeah.
Yeah, so they're like, okay, we should take a good crack at this. So a lot of that carries over, I think.
At the same time, wouldn't you say that you're also a little bit disappointed that they stuck to a similar template to Mortal Kombat with this game?
Yeah, I wish they would have done a little more to me, the combo system, a lot of that, it feels, you know, I could figure things out as if I were playing, you know, different characters in a Mortal Kombat game. There are some differences. I guess one of the big differences is you hold back to block now and down. Yeah. You don't hit a block button, which is kind of, you know, that was kind of Mortal Kombat. That's one of their vestigial things from like, hey, I guess we need a block button. Other people don't do it, but you know, hit a button to block. But then they also like they give everyone like super deep, easy cross-ups where you just jump way over the person and hit them from behind, and that's a thing that doesn't come up all the time, and you know, it's pretty big in Street Fighter 4, I guess. But it seems like they just automatically like, okay, I guess everyone needs you know, a kick that like hits people in the back of the head. So they added a lot of cool stuff. It still has EX moves. You know, I think the basic fighting system is good.
And everyone has their own like little special icon.
Everyone has a power button. It's a cool idea. I wish it was more interesting for more characters. Some characters just hit a button. It's like, okay, now 3 energy orbs orbit you. Yeah. That's your button. That could have easily been another special move, but some people have cool systems like you know, Bane. You activate a tank of Bane juice and you get a certain amount stronger. Yeah.
This is something we were talking about the other day. You know, we were trying to decide if we liked the idea of the powers or not, and I think we pretty much agreed that the idea is cool. We just wish that some of the powers were as good as some of the other ones, because like, you know, with Hawk Girl, if you hit it, she could fly. That's cool. Like you can see the application there. But then some are really underwhelming, like Black Adam. You just hit the button and he gets like 3 orbs. It's like, okay.
And it's okay, but it doesn't. So it's just something you kind of tap.
Fighting games are all about balance, right? Like any fighter should be able to defeat any other fighter, even though as you know, as the community gets the game, obviously. I know you've told me like what the stupid the one dude's fireballs make all the difference between Ken and Ryu, right? And one of the Street Fighters, even though they play pretty much identical or something like that.
Ryu?
Yeah,
for Ryu, like kangaroo.
Shout out to Seth Killian.
Do you know he was like a philosophy major?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a big edge profile.
People call him the professor.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm gonna call him Socrates. Bill and Ted.
Socrates and Ryu.
That's like a comic strip. But I'm curious from you, like, you know, I know you were doing some capture with the game. The game's only been out like a week, and you know, are there already fan favorite characters, or like, you know, I know you watch Evo. Yeah. Mortal Kombat was only at Evo for 1 year, or did it stick around for 2012?
Honestly, I can't remember.
Exhibition, maybe,
but it was definitely there last year.
It was, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, is there already going to be like, you know, this is where I think, again, talking about balance, like, it's really fair for a lot of games to release patches, right? But like in fighting games, it's a little more, I feel like, nefarious when they do like balancing patches. They'd rather release like ultimate injustice or something.
This is something that matters to a certain subset of players and doesn't matter quite so much to everyone. You know, I think the important thing is to have characters that feel different and are fun to play. And I think they do that. They do that overall. They actually put in some larger grappler type characters, which they hadn't really done before. I mean, Goro doesn't really count.
I think going back to the favorites, I mean, just reading Twitter conversations, Green Lantern and Solomon Grundy are probably the two that people are saying are a little overpowered, because Lantern, you got the machine gun, you got the big rocket you can fire, and Grundy is just, I mean, he is a big undead zombie. And
you were playing a lot of Grundy.
Well, I was starting with Grundy, and I had a suspicion that he might be a little bit broken because his special power is basically a throw that breaks all the rules for other throws in the game. And once you grab someone with it, there's nothing they can do to get out, and you can chain 2 more things. It's just, he has pretty easy guaranteed damage. I feel like there's a lot of mean setups you can get where it's like, hey, do you want to get hit, or do you want to get thrown for 30% damage?
What's that, Patrick?
Well, speaking to your point about balance, it's kind of funny just to track how much the community's attitude towards that has changed over the years, because you think back to the arcade days, you know, when there was no such thing as, you know, pushing updates online.
Right.
People just had to deal with.
But there was also 10 versions of Street Fighter 2.
That's true. But now, like, you know, with games like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter that are getting, you know, regular DLC patches, you know, tweaks to characters, new characters, it's just funny to see how much that's changed over the years. I think people have learned to be more adaptable rather than accepting the way that some strategies and characters are. So it's kind of interesting.
Going back really quick, this is a point I wanted to make earlier at a question. When we, balance is important, right? Like, kind of makes or breaks a game, even though it does get exploited to a degree. With these special powers being they sound like they're kind of outside the mode of hits and kicks and normal attacks. Like, that's kind of like a meta balance, and so is that not as evenly distributed? Like, everyone has these kind of uses.
I mean, it's not necessarily.
Or is it kind of like using
it's not really down to it's another tool the character has. Like, some characters might have really abusable. Some characters have better high-low game. They have a lot of combos where you have to either block high or block low, and if you get the wrong guess, you get smacked with an overhit or you get attacked with a low hit, and then they go into a large combo, and there's not much you can do about it. So just different characters have different tools. Some characters don't need a good power, and the power is really just another special move or another mechanic. So it's just, I mean, they kind of put it in its own category, but it doesn't necessarily define them.
Okay, no,
good
I
for
just
some
remember
people,
when-
not good for other people. It's a strength for some, not for others.
When you were playing Marvel vs. Capcom, and you were showing me how Phoenix, right? How she goes like, she's shitty, she's like awful, but then when she goes to like Dark Phoenix mode, you got like 20 seconds to kill the other player.
it.
Yeah.
She can't control it.
I like that kind of. I mean, that's really outside the rounds of build up a meter and use it. Like that's another step removed of like weird strategy. I thought that was kind of interesting.
It's like build up.
But
5
I was
meters.
curious if like these special abilities kind of have, or some characters have that level of that.
Kind of. I would say that rather than treating it like another set of moves, it's more like it's a button or trait to your character that accents your overall playstyle. Sometimes it factors in greatly, sometimes not so much.
Can it be disabled? Because I remember like didn't gems, like no one plays with gems, right?
No, it's
pretty essential.
It's part of your character's
It
move
is,
list,
okay.
essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people have, like a cool throw that's button input, and Sonic
So it's
just
just
has
you can
a
have
throw
both.
that's circle. It's not really super consistent. It's a cool idea. I guess it's like
But
it's like the
speaking
dust button, but not so dusty.
But speaking
It
about
doesn't fit into
useless
the
though,
character's identity,
there
so.
definitely are some stupid mechanics in the game, like the wager system. I think they could have totally cut that out.
Yeah,
Nick
I'm
argued
glad
with
you
that
brought
one.
that up because I was about to as well. That is the one thing that just took me out of it. It just seems pointless.
Don't you
It
like
really
the
is.
strategy of it?
What
It's like, okay,
strategy?
the other guy has more meter than you. Do you want him to gain life when he clashes the shit out of you, or do you want him to not gain quite so much life?
And most of
Isn't
the
that
time,
interesting?
Is it really that cut and dry every time? Yeah.
If the other guy has more meter than you, you're like, well, fuck. I mean, he could not hit the button and not wager anything. Basically, defense. If you win, you wager more, you gain life, and if you're attacking, you wager more. The other people lose life. So if you initiate it when the other guy has way more meter than you, you're like, I'm gonna take damage. It's just a matter of how much. It's
funny.
It'll stop a combo.
And if you're playing,
It's
against
just
the
weird.
CPU in story mode, 8 times out of 10 the CPU will win. Normally, when it's just about, you're literally just about to unleash the combo, and all it's going to wipe them out, and they've got this much left, and wager mode will come up, and even if they don't have the full power bar, and it's like, all right, I'm going to finish you off, and you're going to do that extra bit of damage, and they will just win and get extra 30% health back.
Because
That is
they'll
just-
only do it. They're like, oh, I have more meter than this guy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna not instead of losing, I'm gonna be like, clash.
It's a punk play.
That's funny.
It's a little
Yeah.
stupid, but
Just one last little thing I want to bring up. This is the last big fighting game on the horizon. I know Skullgirls is getting a big.
Little trickle of DLC.
Forgot about Dive Kick.
Our own Rich Brown is
Dive
going to be
Kick.
doing a voice. Dive kick, the jump kick, the game, right?
Black Adam has a good dive kick.
Okay. And I know this may be a little preview of what you're talking about on Saturday.
Well,
but,
I don't
mean,
go into it in any depth. I mean, I just have a couple of snarky answers.
Is there? I mean, after we talked about this earlier, but Street Fighter 4 came out, and then we got a great Mortal Kombat. We've seen regular Tekken, 3D games, but regular Tekken, Soul Calibers. I mean, even Virtual Fighter, which we were talking about earlier, got a kind of an HD remake, right?
And Dead or Alive got a sequel last year.
Dead or Alive, and even on the handhelds and stuff like that.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
But I mean, nothing's on the horizon. I mean, are we going into a fighting game drought for a little while?
Yeah, I mean, with Tekken getting a sequel last year, Dead or Alive getting a sequel last year, those are kind of the straggling franchises that haven't really seen an update in quite some time. So,
Does Capcom have anything cooking right now?
I mean, supposedly Darkstalkers, but we really don't know for sure. But yeah, I mean, this year is definitely going to be a little dry for fighting games. I would be surprised if another one came out. So.
Well, if I may throw out a kind of left ball curve, as it were, my curved left balls, thank you. Killer Instinct.
I wish.
Forever.
But we're hearing that Killer Instinct is
It's going to be a Connect game.
Wait. After fighting community commentary. But yeah, I mean, you know, with a new Xbox being announced, and we're hearing that it's being worked on and the trademark's being renewed. Could we see, you know, in 6 weeks' time at E3, or in, was it 46 days at E3?
Say that.
Brandon did that to me last week. He said 53 days to E3. Oh, you fucker. But yeah, in 46 days, could we see Xbox showing this new machine and boom, Killer Instinct is front and center?
Well, I guess
I
that's
wish.
a similar question. Other than like awesome graphics, I mean, is there something that we'd want to see from next gen fighting game?
I don't know. I mean, graphics aren't really, what make a fighting game.
Right, more frame data.
Sure.
A good fighting game would.
I mean, but speaking to Marcus's point, I would love to see Killer Instinct, but I feel like that's one franchise that Microsoft and Rare are okay to kind of let die. So I don't know.
When was the last
Rare
time
doesn't
SNK?
exist as Rare anymore. I don't know
Exactly.
who would make it or who they would get to do it. They'd have to really just put it
Farm
together
it
from
out.
scratch.
What was the last King of Fighters? 13? 14?
Yeah, 13.
Is there one of those on the horizon? I mean, SNK is such a
doubt
weird
it.
company.
They want so much money for their. I don't think anybody in the US can afford to publish it, given the amount of money they want for that, for distribution rights. And personally, look, I'm holding out for a sequel to Rise of the Robots.
Oh God, so awful.
Well, just rounding back to Injustice, one interesting thing about fighting games, though, is that there was a recent online discussion with one of Capcom's VPs, Christian Svensson, and he mentioned something about, future Street Fighter titles, future fighting game titles are probably going to focus more on single player, which I find interesting. So.
Okay, I'm gonna do one of these again.
What?
Well,
I don't know what that means.
Mortal
Something
Kombat,
like Mortal
Mortal
Kombat.
Kombat took a cue from Street Fighter 4, and they're like, okay, let's
Oh,
step
you
up
mean
our
just
whatever
building up
game.
like the extra
And
modes?
maybe Street Fighter,
Okay.
maybe they'll
I
take
think
a
that'd
cue
be
from
cool.
Maybe
Mortal
a story
Kombat.
mode,
I'd love to see a Marvel, beat 'em up, a Marvel fighting game come out with a really
Well,
strong story.
It's funny you say that because
Children
our
of the End.
GT countdown this week is about franchises that need fighting games. U.S. presidents.
Today, I'll share with you information about Nintendo 3DS directly.
So Nintendo graced us with another Nintendo Direct, and we've brought in some people who like Nintendo, Daniel Bloodworth and Michael Damiani.
and
Michael.
I am still here.
Somehow Marcus has stayed on, but we're setting him over there. I'm just curious, like I am as a Nintendo. I grew up with Nintendo as well. I mean, I know we're about the same age, or a little younger, but I know you like Nintendo. I grew up, big Nintendo fan. There wasn't even Sega Master System was like 2% of the market share, so everyone liked Nintendo. And as a fan, I was pretty happy with yesterday, but as someone kind of, somewhat in the industry, I was also a little worried. But I want to get what you guys think about what came out of yesterday.
Again, it's everyone's wanting to hear about Wii U, and it was very 3DS focused. I do feel like Nintendo's kind of putting the hammer down and saying, hey, everyone that said that the dedicated portable market is on its way out, shut up. They've got Luigi, they've got all these other games lined up, and I mean it looks like they've got a pretty solid lineup for the rest of the year for 3DS. I guess I'm just still a little disappointed with the amount of like remakes and rehashes and things like that. And there's that that gaff picture where you see like The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, and then like all the screenshots they put together to show the maps like exactly the same.
Right.
But it doesn't, like that and Yoshi don't look as good to me. I'm actually kind of okay with the way Yoshi looks, but then when you put it side by side to the original, it's like, I'd still rather have the sprites look 2D and hand-drawn. So, I don't know. It's interesting. I do think they need to find a way, like I know it's hard for people sometimes, but they need to find a way to like not sound so much like they're reading off of a teleprompter. Those things like are so boring to watch when you're seeing great games, but the people talking.
I think Owada's pretty entertaining. He's one of my favorite guys to actually watch. But yeah, Bill and Reggie. I don't think Reggie is the best speaker. I know I'm in the minority there, but sometimes I think he's just a little bit off for a spokesman.
I gotta say, XPR guy, I wouldn't put any of those guys up. I mean, I would honestly. That's where Mr. Caffeine would be a better alternative.
Really?
Than Lady Reggie.
You don't think Owada does a good job?
I mean, it's very dry. I mean, it's very dry, and if they go for the laughs, sometimes they're more if they're in jokes or they're kind of like pity laughs. And I would like to see. I would like not more pizzazz. And I was obviously joking about Mr. Caffeine. I mean, that guy should be just exiled to Siberia. But I think they do need to liven up. I mean, and Reggie is not a good public speaker.
Can I interject for just 1 second though? But I think it's really cool that Nintendo does Nintendo Directs.
Oh, look,
because we don't get anything like this except for press conferences from these other. I mean, yeah, I guess PlayStation had the PlayStation meeting, but usually it's the E3 press conference and maybe something at TGS, maybe something at Gamescom. But Mike, I was just curious. Did you have any overall thoughts or any specific thoughts?
It's good that they focus so much on first-party games because that seems to be all that's coming out on Nintendo platforms lately.
Do you have some deja vu from like the GameCube era? A little
Yeah,
bit.
I mean,
GameCube and the Game Boy Advance, and then into the DS.
I mean, yeah, people.
Super NES. Sorry to interrupt. Super NES. You got a sequel to Zelda. A Link
Well,
to
but
the
I mean, the
Past.
Super NES was really popular. The N64, the PlayStation,
Kind of
but like
the
the
changing the
GameCube, like
guard,
market
yeah.
share-wise, and then
People,
the
yeah.
Game Boy Advance and Pokemon in
I
particular.
feel like
really,
the GameCube was a lot better than the Wii U right now, though.
Yeah, they're both drawing comparisons
I
right
would
now with the sales
agree.
charts and stuff, but
NPD.
even with the
yet.
3DS, the one thing that I saw was, okay, we're getting Bravely Default supposedly next year.
That's
and
cool.
that's good, and Nintendo's, I guess, publishing it, and the 3DS and the Wii U really need not just like games, but need like third-party support. And despite that figure that came out, that 3DS has sold more than the DS at the
In the
same point in their
comparable-
lifespan.
Yeah.
I still feel like Elite DS had better third-party support through, I might be wrong, through that, like long through its lifespan as well. And it'd be interesting to see if the 3DS gets as much third-party support as the DS had, because it seemed like everything was on the DS in one form or another. And these Nintendo Directs, they're really good. They get you excited about games, but they're all first-party games. We know Nintendo makes good first-party games. We don't see a lot of these supposed third-party games they always keep alluding to, and they always turn out to be some like licensed adaptation or something, or some watered-down version of the game we really want to see. And then again, like the 3DS, I agree. Like I think people wanted to see the Wii U stuff because 3DS just had Fire Emblem, just had Luigi's Mansion 2.
Mm-hmm.
They are putting out a decent amount of games for the 3DS. The Wii U had like Monster Hunter and Lego City, but the biggest thing from that Nintendo Direct that I was like, what the hell, was the Pikmin 3 stuff.
Launch
And
window?
yeah,
Launch window?
that is some launch window. that
It's a
August,
big
Says
window.
Skylight.
that August release date.
I will
That-
say I'm actually disappointed that they talked about the flying Pikmin. I wanted that to just be saved for the game. Let's and plus it's kind of obvious the stuff that they said anyways.
I'm a huge Pikmin fan, but I remember I think this game's done, honestly, and they're just strategically placing it somewhere. And I know that sounds silly, but I remember Pikmin 2 being announced, or even Conker's Bad Fur Day. Nintendo had this thing at the what's sad is this is not even the tail end of these systems' lives, like Conker and Pikmin 2 to a degree. But like, you'd pick up EGM and they'd have their list of when games are coming out and be like, oh, getting pushed again. And it's like, I think these games are done or nearing completion, and they wait for a strategic time to release them.
If that's the strategic time to release it,
Don't
though,
ask me why.
Well, if they're holding it because they want to have something to counter the new consoles coming out, like they want to hold their software till then to have a stronger lineup. What is that? And Pikmin's like something they're throwing out there. What does that really say about what they have coming out this holiday for Wii
He's
U?
nailed it. I mean, they're bringing it out in August, which is, it's the tail end of August, is the beginning of the push
Fourth
up to
quarter.
of the fourth quarter. But I mean, it's still August, and June, July, August are the barren months. July and August especially. And is Pikmin a system seller for the Wii U to take the Wii U to the next level beyond the, was it 55,000 a month that they're selling right now? That's the figure I've seen bandied about, and I know one guy on the forums is going to take me to task about it. But I just want to go back. Look, I agree with you. I think it's cool what Nintendo does with Nintendo Direct. They are getting out there. They are talking to the fans. They are talking to everybody and updating them on a regular basis. Do I think they could be a little livelier and a little, not necessarily slicker, but just a little more welcoming?
I think they need to be less slick. I think they need to just actually do it almost like a let's play, and just like one guy playing the game and kind of explaining what the other guy asks questions
But I
more
don't think
organically.
I don't think they're slick at all right now. I mean, and perhaps we have different ideas. The one thing I will say, putting it out at 7 a.m., I'm not getting out of bed to watch it.
Well, it does. They're going for the global release,
Yeah.
right? So it hits. They have their own Japanese version, and then they're trying to coincide what's a good time for the East Coast, and I guess it's
Europe
a good
too.
time for London, right? Or sorry, yeah, Europe.
Yeah, but it's not good for me personally, so they need to fix that.
Believe me, I completely agree with that one. I've come in many an early day for a Nintendo Direct where it's very minimal. I mean,
But
Especially if they're the ones that aren't simulcast, the ones that are Japanese only, is often are a little underwhelming.
now,
So,
they have done a good job with the 3DS.
is Bayonetta 2 this year? Sorry, just random thought.
They've been
launch
It
window.
should be.
Launch
Yeah.
window.
launch
2015.
Yeah, right.
Look, they've done a good job. The 3DS is still selling. Their assertion that the portable handheld market is not taking a bit of a pounding from apps and iPhones and iPads, I think is a bit ridiculous. I think they do need to do, what everybody's saying they need to do. Start putting Mario and shit onto these tablets, and they'd make a lot of money. What they're doing with the Wii U, I don't know. I don't even know if they know what they're doing with the Wii U. I question if they have a long-term strategy.
I do think their E3. Remember the last good Nintendo Direct though, like new Zelda, Zelda remake and a new Zelda and all this other stuff. New Mario, Smash Brothers, and all this. I think Nintendo's going to have a really good E3, especially for fans. Will it hit that critical mass? I mean, we all know Mario Kart's going to still be gold and Brawl or Brawl 2. Or did they give it a full title yet?
No.
Yeah, is going to sell like gangbusters as well. But my really brief kind of just my kind of takeaways were Super Luigi Brothers or whatever, cool. But at this point, I feel like this is going to sound so weird, and my 12-year-old self would not understand this. But I feel like New Super Mario Brothers is almost at the point of like a Call of Duty, where it's good, there's quality, but it's not different enough and new enough where I want to play it every time. When the first DS one came out, all over that. But it's just having diminishing returns for me personally. The Zelda game, always love a Zelda. Love Link to the Past. Overworld stuff again, this kind of like double dipping. I know there's new stuff going on there. Dungeons are going to be new and stuff, but still makes me just a little apprehensive. Will I not pick it up? No, I'm probably going to pick it up. But it still makes me just a little worried.
I agree, especially on the Zelda thing.
You like Zelda, right?
I think I do. Well, the first thing I thought when I heard a new Zelda game, I was like, oh shit, timeline.
Oh no!
Whereas, and then it's
not a time travel.
Then they said it was a sequel. It's like they're gonna create a parallel universe or something. And no. Like, I love A Link to the Past. That is my favorite Zelda game.
You would marry it, right, if it was legally allowed?
I don't know. Can I adopt it?
Okay, you can adopt it.
Yeah, I can adopt it.
Good move there, Mike.
Yeah. No, that is my favorite Zelda game, one of my favorite games of all time. And I've always wanted another 2D Zelda game that captured the essence of that game. I don't want the same game or a direct sequel to that game.
Right.
The more that I saw of that game, the more that it resembled exactly looking like A Link to the Past, like the overworld comparisons, like some of the dungeon stuff looked very familiar. The enemies all look the same.
Is it going to be Master Quest, or Zelda or whatever? I know it's going to be different.
The troll
enough,
I thought it was the BS Satellaview thing. Yeah, the Ancient Stone Tablets thing. I was like, oh, they're just turning that into a 3DS game. That's cool. And then no, it's an actual sequel. I was like, oh, okay.
What do you think about the actual the solid mechanic we saw going into the walls
thing?
Which can we bring up my secret favorite game, Vex, with the I wish Justin was here. What did he call Vex?
Ben Stiller claws.
The Ben Stiller claws.
Yeah, Ben Stiller claws.
Vex had that thing where you jump in the tapestries and this 3D platform would kind of become a 2D painting that you'd do. It's not exactly the same.
Everyone's calling
but
it Paper Zelda because they're trying to draw comparisons, to the Super Paper Mario where you shifted the perspective and stuff. Actually looked like that. What was that indie game? That Sideway New York.
Oh right.
That weird thing. Anyway,
it actually reminded me of Lost in Shadow a little bit too.
It didn't seem like anything that really unique for what they showed. It's like, okay, cool, you walk along the walls in 3 dimensions and you gotta you shift the perspective to see something. I just want to see more of that, but what they showed didn't get me that excited about that. That was actually probably the least exciting thing I saw of everything they showed off. So maybe, who knows, maybe when they show off more of the game, they'll reveal oh, this is really a different game, it's not the same, but I'm tired. I don't want them to keep having to be so strongly attached to their older games that it feels like a redux of A Link to the Past. Or I was glad they did Ocarina of Time 3D, but take those engines you made and make totally new games, new Zelda games. I wanted a new 2D Zelda game that has nothing to do with A Link to the Past, but has all the charm and atmosphere and style of that game.
Right.
So I think that I want to say it's lazy. It feels a bit lazy.
Even when Pilot Wings used I'm going to say this wrong. Woohoo Island?
Island, yeah.
Oh, yeah, from
Even there, I was
Wii
like,
Sports.
okay, I can kind of get it, but it still feels like, really, you couldn't, maybe that could be one of the islands or something like that?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the thing, like, that we're kind of feeling this fatigue of is, you know, these things would be cool if there were a lot of other new franchises and new things in the mix as well, but it always
Right.
feels like, okay, you know, we're going to make a sequel to every spin-off we've ever made.
I mean, what has Nintendo really done in the last 10 years, like, new? You know, it's like Pikmin, Wii Sports,
I mean, Xenoblade, does that even count? Because, I mean, that's Monolith, you know?
So, I don't know. So again, as a fan, it's a lot of cool stuff, but is it going to hit that critical mass?
Well, that's the thing. It will hit the critical mass. It's actually more.
The fans and the
turning
critical
off.
mass are probably actually a pretty big crossover.
I think it's probably
diagram.
more of a turnoff to the hardcore fans because it's like like we're gonna go with whatever Nintendo is doing, you know, and it's like we want them to do something.
I think
else with their
Gildo
talents.
2 coming out again in level 5 down the
Liberation
street.
Maiden 2.
Yeah.
All the Gildo 2 stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Bugs versus Tanks.
the Inafune. Yeah,
But-
like I think that's cool. I like that. You know.
Earthbound.
Oh, duh. Of
That's
course.
gonna sell
We should
more than Pikmin 3, by the way.
Summon Patrick.
It is.
What?
Earthbound's going to sell more than Pikmin 3.
You think? From
Yes,
the
more
fan?
people will download.
It's just because the guys at Starman.net are just
Yes.
going to buy 10 copies each.
Because they're going to think that if they buy a shit ton of that version, then maybe Nintendo will see to bring up the rest of the Mother series over
Mother
here.
was translated by Nintendo in-house, just never released. And I heard the Mother 3 fan translation's excellent, so could be interesting.
All right, my prediction. I hate doing predictions. No, let me actually my observation.
Okay, Nostradamus.
The critical mass. The critical mass, I think the critical reception will probably be very high because there are a lot of Nintendo fans in the industry who grew up as you did. I mean, I came to the Nintendo thing in my late teens because I am older than God.
Well, and the NES wasn't big in London.
No,
or
the
in
NES.
England.
The NES was popular. Super NES. I mean,
Super NES I know
I
was,
worked.
but-
I mean, I worked retail, so at this time, so I was playing NES and Super NES games as well. There's this generation that that generation who've been playing those games, and as Blood said, I mean, we keep on going back to the pot. It's like the ideas pot, and their arm is right down the bottom. They're scrabbling together, and the pot is empty, and that's all they're doing is coming up with just remixes, if you will. And it's like listening to your favorite band from the 80s and the 90s, who are now basically just cobbling shit together out of nostalgia. And I don't think that the market there, especially with this market of people who are now grown up on Xbox, who have grown up on PlayStation, who are now using iPads, etc. I think Nintendo's market is diminishing.
Their currency
It's-
is running out.
It's
Or
not
it could.
increasing. Yeah, and they're not doing anything to bring new people to the well.
Except when you are a young kid, this is the thing you always say is like when we were kids, we played Contra because it was 5 pixels big when people died. Now when kids are growing up with games, the iPad is interesting, but now when kids are growing up with games, they are coming, with the ESRB rated games. They aren't, some kids are, but they aren't having access, so they are kind of growing up with the Nintendo stuff.
But that's the thing, they're not anymore.
Some-
because
no, some are, but
the
are they gonna-
majority of kids now are in front of iPads. I was back in the UK a couple of weeks ago. My nephews were not interested in a 3DS or a Vita. One grabbed my iPhone because I've got Minecraft on it and started building his own town. The other one had his iPad Mini and he was building a competing town in Minecraft. That's what they are playing, and that's 7 and 10 and 11-year-olds.
Totally agree.
Who
That's the
had
wild
their
card.
Mario moment. The Wii is now gathering dust because they're not interested in it, and they're not interested in the Wii U either, and they're not interested in a 3DS. And that, unfortunately, is down to Nintendo sitting on their laurels for such a long time for being the biggest and the best and doing this great stuff. And they got scared, and now they just seem to be regurgitating the same things with slight, this particular pile of vomit will have 3 carrots and 2 peas. The next one, 8 carrots.
Okay.
And but if Nintendo can go back and get creative and give us some of that amazing stuff, they can open themselves up to a whole new audience. I just don't think they have the creative capability in store anymore.
And now some sobering news with the NPD interstitial. So we're going to do some on-the-hook questions. We posted on Twitter if you guys had any discussion points or questions for us. And I got some good stuff, I believe. This first one's from Alex Smith, who has the beautiful name of Blah Blah the Fourth. Should developers make more of an effort to be open about their projects during development? Does too much secrecy hurt? I'm going to start with you, Marcus, as a PR person. As an ex-PR person,
As
reformed.
yes, I mean I'm still shaking out the taint. No, I don't. I like that. I like that. We can. People can be a little secret because it is building anticipation. I think one of the PR tenement there about this. The motto I had in PR was the quality over quantity with my PR, and I wanted to build up and not give away too much of the story. And so, especially in this day and age when we have Twitter, we have every single thing thrown at us, Vine. It's nice to have surprises. I mean, it's nice to drop stuff in day one and go off and be able to see a game for yourself. Because anything, when somebody streams it, when GT streams the first 3 hours of a game, I will make sure I'm nowhere near this office or the website or anything. And that goes for every other site. I don't want to see a game that I'm going to play streamed. I want to play it myself. And I think having this level of secrecy and just slowly, teasing bits, that's what builds anticipation. That's what gets people excited. If you make it too transparent, and let's face it, what's the point? You've had the entire game laid out in front of you before you buy it.
And us as video game journalists, sometimes we get more access to things than consumers.
Yeah.
Consumers, but fans, people that are into games. But I think it is interesting to look at what is metered out to people, and I like to think that the marketing and PR department and the creatives involved with the game do have kind of an idea of what they want to show. Like I know some people, I have some friends right now who are on Dark Souls 2 media blackout. But I like to know to see, I'm glad to see what they show. Like when you came back from Gamescom and they showed Seath's Archives, which is 50 hours into the game for the average player or something like that. It's interesting to show what they decided to show off at that point. And they spoiled the Mimic, but which would have been a great reveal for a lot of people, but the hardcore fans knew that was coming, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's kind of different sides to it too. With the BioShock Infinite, a lot of people actually feel like they were oversold because of things that they had in development that didn't actually make it into the final game.
Well, we did that top 10 misleading trailers, and I have a theory that a lot of the without going spoilery into BioShock, but I have a theory that a lot of the stuff we saw that didn't make it into the game, like Dead Horse, that kind of, or the Vox Populi, interacting with the Serene town, turning it into a fighting zone, I could see that being some of there's at least 3 story DLCs planned. I could see a lot of that stuff being moved into that way.
Which I think, if that does happen, will just make people more angry. It's it's a weird line to cross. But yeah, I mean, I definitely get times where I feel fatigued. I know, what Resident Evil 6, it's wow, this game is coming out this year, and it's and we hadn't heard anything about it, and then we just kept hearing about it and kept hearing about it and it was I can't care anymore.
Well, we knew about BioShock for, 3 years? 3 years. And then I'm thinking of those when Nintendo went into that phase where it was what was the Wario Shake game?
Right.
It looked like flash animation. That had a 6-week from announcement to launch. I remember one of the Call of Juarez's had about a 2-month announcement to launch. And I think it's probably maybe profile and where your marketing dollars go. But I'd like to know about games at least 6 months out.
There's
personally.
a happy medium, and with regards to where your game dollars go, that generally is on the marketing side. When it goes to PR, PR has its own budget, but I mean, you can get stuff out. And the best PR people look at their game and say, all right, this is a pie. And how am I going to divide the pieces of the pie, and what are the key segments, and what am I going to hold back? And that's why, unfortunately, the PR people that tend to overblast everything over and over and over. Either one's stuck at an agency where they've got an unrealistic client with his head up his ass who's saying, well, I want hits on every single site every single day, and it's you're a fucking moron. Or 2, and even worse in my opinion, they're in-house PR people who don't play video games, who don't have the love for video games that we have. And that's, again, one of the reasons I got out of it, because there is an influx of PR people who think reading and memorizing a sales sheet qualifies as video game PR. They don't know what the competitive titles are. They don't know what the history of the franchises are. They really don't give a shit because they want to get home and do their, Pilates and walk the Chihuahua.
Pilates.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
In terms of this whole idea of having a plan and revealing things like that, how bad does that get screwed up when a game gets delayed and you have to then still keep people interested?
Well, I mean, that is always a tough one. It can be an absolute pain in the ass, but again, if you are a good PR person and you know who you're working with, what the track record is, you do build in a contingency of, all right, well, I'll ramp everything up to peak here, but I also will know probably 3 or 4 weeks before everybody else knows that a game is going to slip. So I will adjust the PR plan accordingly and space stuff out. So it comes down to, again, knowing your game and knowing how to execute and just how the gamers react. The gamers are the first and foremost. The press, we are puppets.
So I picked that question kind of because you were here. This one's for you guys a little bit more. This is from, I guess, Trajo1337, because he's elite. What the hell happened to the 3D platformer? Can you see the genre making a comeback? Because I love 3D platformers. Pretty damn sure you do, and I know you at least like the Marios, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Platformers are awesome.
I love 3D platformers a lot,
yeah.
and they are few and far between, and I feel like even during PlayStation 1 and N64 times, the quality of them was like very, very split, much of a bell curve.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not really around, or they're like bad movie games for kids.
It's honestly, the only ones you're going to get that are, will be excellent because of their pedigree is like all the 3D Mario games. I mean, you had Super Mario Galaxy 2. They're actually pretty good at that. There was like only, 2-3 year, what was it, 2007 and 2009?
I believe so,
forget.
yeah.
And then, I guess Donkey Kong Country Returns, which is also a platform, but wasn't 3D.
Right.
That 2.5,
And
whatever.
3D Land, I played the first 5 or 6 levels of 3D Land. I thought it was okay, again, talking about Little Mario 15, but it didn't grab me as much.
I mean,
that A to B progression that's not what I want out of a platformer.
So yeah, I mean, it depends if you want like the more open style, like the more like Super Mario 64 type environments, or like Banjo-Kazooie, which is another great like 3D platformer. Those type of N64 style like open environment, you can do multiple objectives versus like the more linear out there one, like with the Galaxy and even Galaxy 2, where the course is tailored to like whatever star you're getting, and that's. I mean, this is a preference of what you like there, and there's 2 different styles. I wish they would go back to the style of Super Mario 64.
I hear you.
Yeah, and make this like, hey, there's like 6 different stars you can get. You can get like they need to do what Banjo-Kazooie did, which is you don't get kicked out of the level when you get a star. You can go and do multiple objectives, and the course, like they need to figure out a way to like dynamically change the course if you start like going over to do it. Like you go talk to an NPC, and then that triggers the thing, because I see why they do it.
Do you think they're just too expensive to make?
It's probably too expensive.
Because we see these open world games, but they're not very interactive in that kind of sense.
I think it's a matter of precision. I mean, we've kind of seen like Nintendo talk about this from time to time. I think there's a sense that like the average person, when they pick up like a game in 3D and then have to manipulate the camera control, but also be precise with their character, I feel like there's a sense from developers that there's a barrier of entry there, and that's why you kind of see like Enslaved and Uncharted and stuff like this, where platforming is really...
it's not platforming, it's traversal.
Yeah, there's no skill or anything in terms of like getting across a complicated obstacle course. And I think that a lot of that probably comes down to not really Mario 64, but all the people that tried to be Mario 64 and couldn't develop a camera.
Well, it's kind of like when Mario Sunshine, I'm sure there was a game that did it before that, but I remember Mario Sunshine was the first game where they really made me the cameraman.
Yeah.
And I felt like this is, because it was always like, oh, this game has good camera angles, and you'd be like, oh, thank God, or it's got good camera programming, right? And then it was like, I'm the camera guy, and I fought it for a while, but now we're used to, like, even in Uncharted, or 99% of games, you're sweeping that camera around, right? Like, I guess God of War was like one of the last ones I played where you don't, right? And that's like kind of their legacy. But I think there is money on the table.
They should
but
just,
I don't know if it's also like thematic stuff, talking again about maybe like adult stuff versus kids stuff.
I think it's cyclical, though. It goes back to the conversation we had about the fighting games, where we had 4 or 5 years of fighting games coming through, and before that we had a bunch of 3D platformers. I mean, the only one I can think of is Sly Cooper that came out not so long ago, and that was treated with disdain by Sony and practically no marketing. I think again, when we perhaps get back into this this next generation, or these new consoles at the end of the year. Perhaps this is where, ironically, we won't see them so much on those consoles, but perhaps we will see them more on Nintendo, because Nintendo cannot compete with the Wii U up against the PS4 and the Xbox.
And if they're offering an experience
3.
that you can't get anywhere else, I mean, we're novelty vampires, right? We want to play stuff that's new, especially if it's done well.
And
I mean, but the
old
thing
is the new. Old is the new.
Yeah. I will say we made fun of Vex earlier. The first 20 minutes, Vex was one of those games where I remember reading an EGM, and I think like Shu or like Che Chow gave it like a 9.5, and the other two reviews were like a 5 and a 5, and I was like, what's going on here? First 20 minutes of the game is awful, and then it's basically one of the best Mario 64 clones I've ever played in my life. Also, a shout out to, you mentioned Sly Cooper, Sucker Punch. They made this amazing game that no one played called Rocket Robot on Wheels, which is really, really good. Up there with Banjo-Kazooie and Mario 64 for the N64 games. Did you guys have any 3D platformers you wanted to pimp? Because I feel like everyone knows Mario 64 and then Banjo-Kazooie, and kind of...
I don't know if I want to like...
Chris says Jack
and Daxter. They need to make more. They need to like keep. Companies need to try and go back and make more 3D platformers, because I still personally think that they're viable, and there's a great template to copy. Just don't be too shamed if you're copying someone if they're like the best. You know, there's no shame in trying to copy like what Mario
Let's
Galaxy.
say emulate.
Okay, emulate.
Be
But
inspired
yeah. I mean, and I know all the same staff are there anymore, but like if Microsoft had any sense, they would like put Rare back to use and try and, instead of making nuts and bolts Banjo-Kazooie, try and make another Banjo-Kazooie platformer, get a good platformer on Microsoft, a 3D platformer on Microsoft, and have a series for that. Like here, you don't need to go to Nintendo for Mario. Like, remember Banjo-Kazooie? Well, we're making platforms again, and this one's going to be good. You know, here's all the stuff you want to see in it. And then like for Sony, you know, pony up the money and like get Crash Bandicoot back and like try and do a platformer with Crash Bandicoot again, and revive him or something.
Who owns the rights to Crash now? Is it Activision?
Activision, because it was part of Vivendi had it.
Yeah.
Sierra, yeah.
So let me just throw this out there, that I think the unlikely savior maybe of the 3D platformer is going to be things like Disney's Infinity and Skylanders, because Skylanders, you look at it, I mean, they aren't the
It's more of a brawler.
They,
It's like a
but I mean,
Diablo type thing.
the first Spyro, that was still 3D platforming elements.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was certainly not the best Spyro game by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, that might be the way that we will get to see more 3D platformers come through, because again, they're targeting these things at a younger audience who might be more enthralled in in seeing these new 3D platforms. So, that might be a way back into popularity for this particular genre.
Sounds good to me. Again, I'd like to thank you guys for all being here. I want to do some slight pimpage. I know we got Annoyed Gamer on Saturday.
Yes.
We just today there was a great one, probably one of my favorite pop fictions ever, and
Dark Souls.
Yeah,
that'll be up by the time this goes up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so watch it.
We kind of hinted at it.
And
so.
Backtrack still.
Yeah, we're still mid-season right now, so a few more weeks to go.
Is Brandon's this Monday?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Batman Returns should be this Monday.
From
So
Brandon Jones.
something like when he pitched it to me, I'm like, I don't know what you're gonna say about that, and it's like one of the longest scripts we've had for Backtrack. That's not interview-based.
And we started this thing that's kind of vaguely Invisible Wallsy called The Daily Question. We're just experimenting. We're just, we have these conversations around the office, and we just want to kind of include you guys. I know we're not always on I'm almost never on the forums. I try to jump into video comments sometimes. Bloodro's a little bit better than me with some of the social interaction. But, we just want to include you guys in the conversation, and I think if this goes well, we'll have a Reply Day Friday or something else with a stupid name, and try to bring in you guys more into the conversation, like with On the Hook, because I thought that was fun. I like doing that stuff. So for everyone here at Invisible Walls, have a good weekend.
See this and other GT shows and game reviews on the GT Originals iOS app, available now on the App Store.